And one thing I preach to everyone is you must focus on process and not outcome, whether we're talking about dialing on the phone, expired listings, or we're talking about rebuilding your health from ground zero. You only need to focus on the present moment task in front of you.
I feel like for all the agents out there that have been in the business for, let's say 6 months or more, we all tend to have these moments where we're just like, why did I get into this industry? I'm working with sellers who only want me to lower the price. I'm working with buyers who expect me to show them 1,000 homes, and they're texting me at 10 o'clock at night, and my wife's mad at me and my kids are mad at me. And maybe I made a good commission check last month, but in the months you didn't, you're like, why am I doing this? And I think it's good every now and then for us to take a step back, appreciate what we've built, maybe take a frame of reference and figure out where we are, where we're going. And so because of that, I heard about this guy, Michael, realtor, broker, leader in the Vegas area. And he's becoming known as the mindful agent. Now, when I hear things like that, I often think like, oh, that guy's probably not doing any business, but Michael is. He's still maintaining $20 to $25 million in annual sales while managing and growing a brokerage, while also putting all kinds of practices into his business and helping other agents become more mindful and thinking about how they actually want to proceed as real estate agents. So Michael Coxen in the Vegas area, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Matt. Glad to be here. And yeah, you got into my head. I know that conversation that you led off with. What are we all doing this for?
Well, I mean, why don't you walk us through your story? So you and I have both been in the business since, around 2011, about the same amount of time. And I think a lot of our listeners fit into that kind of like 2011 to 2020 timeframe for when they got into it. So how did you get into this industry? And why don't you just walk us through the quick, 15-year history of where you were, where you are now, and maybe any pivotal things along the way that would be of interest?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I naturally kind of have always been an entrepreneur and a leader. It's just, I feel like some leaders are born. I was the captain of the kickball team, in elementary school, and I always wanted my own business. I wanted to be in charge of my own destiny from a young age, and started reading real estate books in high school and college. Even though I didn't have any money, it was just kind of a hobby, if you will, and an interest of mine. That interest, kind of laid dormant. I was in the music industry in New York City out of college. That was my first career. Met my who would become my wife in New York, and ultimately her parents and her sister were living out in Summerlin, which is a beautiful master plan community in Las Vegas. And as we were dating, we would visit for holidays. I had a brother-in-law who was a real estate agent here. Kind of showed me the ropes, showed me the possibility of Las Vegas, and I saw some opportunity. My girlfriend, who's now my wife, also saw the opportunity, and she bought a house in 2009. That was the first foray into real estate that I personally experienced. She rented that house out for a year and then convinced me to move into it. So we drove across country, left New York City. I stayed in the music industry, worked remotely before it was trending in 2010. And we started a whole other business that year. It was a wedding invitation business. We got that going from the bedroom of our first house. And for those of you, you mentioned a lot of you out there have been in this business 15 years, you know that 2010 was a pretty good time to buy a house. So this was a foreclosure. It was full of pigeon poop in the attic. I recall hauling out bags upon bags upon bags of just absolutely disgusting insulation. And, we did the work, borrowing on credit cards, etc., borrowing from family to do the renovations room by room. We painted, we did flooring, we did everything over, I'm talking years. So that was our first, we call it flip in. So we were, fixing up a house that we bought. Got my real estate license during that process in 2011. So that time I was still part-time. We had this wedding invitation business. I got my first clients. By the way, I moved to Vegas and knew nobody besides family, and got into the wedding industry, again, with no experience. That was my wife's experience and her thing. But as a natural kind of business development connector type, I was bringing in clients for the wedding invitation business. And, I would organically work in that I had a real estate license. So my first clients were, wedding photographers, bakers, event planners, etc. Working that, as we all know in the industry, SOI, sphere of influence. And I did that part time for many years.
I'm going to pause you right there because there's so many themes that I'm seeing in common with what you're saying to what I've talked to other top agents about. You know, number one, you moved to an area where you didn't know anyone, yet you still made it work. And I think that's a really interesting one because when I look at top agents, only half of them were already big in the area that they live in. The other half figured it out. And I think that's not it's not particular to like the time in which you got started. That's a theme I see even from agents that moved to my area last year who happen to be working the system. Second is you worked actively on a real estate project that I'm assuming was a subject of conversation with a lot of your other friends and family. Like you guys were working on it every day. You'd probably, go to the bar, go to an activity, go to your other job, and people are like, "What'd you work on today?" And they see the grit under your nails, and they're like, and you talk about the flip. And that's another common one I see. Agents oftentimes get started by doing it themselves, and then everyone's asking, "What are you doing? How are you doing it? Tell me more." And it's kind of like this attraction model. And then the third thing you said, and I'm really just repeating everything you said because I want everyone else to digest it. But you mentioned that you were working your normal job in the wedding business. That was connecting you and giving you the ability to meet, 20, 30 people a week or maybe a month or whatever that number is. And all you technically had to do was mention real estate in a positive way, and a certain percentage of those people then convert over. That I think almost is one of the most powerful things because every one of us is surrounded by people every single week. And sometimes we forget that all you need to do to, like, at the very least, before your calendar, is just mention real estate in a positive way, and a certain percentage will trickle into you. And obviously, to make sure you're putting yourself in situations where you're at least around people. If you're just sitting at home all day by yourself in isolation, real estate might not be the best career.
Yeah, I have to give it up to, and this was, I read this book later in my career, Ninja Selling. Highly recommended, must read book because it's all about creating conversation that's actually other centered. So I didn't bring up real estate. I avoided bringing up real estate. I sell by not selling. I would do their ninja selling framework, which is an acronym that I want you to remember. It's FORD, FORD. And those are just questions to ask the other person. F, how's your family? O, how's your job, occupation? R, recreation. What have you guys been doing for fun? You and the wife been camping, for example. I saw on social media you went to Japan, right? And then dreams is last because it's a deeper question. What do you guys got going on next? What do you hope to do? Are you going to have more kids? Are you going to stay in Vegas forever? Right? You can start to see how the conversation naturally flows. And when you ask those four good questions of another person, 99% of the time, unless they're a total narcissist that you don't want to work with anyway, they're going to stop and go, "Oh my God, I've been talking so much. How's your job? What have you been up to?" "Oh, yeah, I'm good. I've been selling real estate. I sold a house actually not far from where you live," right? So it just organically becomes a conversation. It's never me selling, and it's always people first, other centeredness that has led to people being attracted to working with me, whether it was in the wedding industry or, current, networks that I'm in today.
Well, so we kind of now have the step one and the step two. So step one, put yourself in situations where you're around a lot of people. Step two, ask lots of questions, be interested rather than interesting. And all of a sudden now you're in a position where you as an intelligent, human being can figure out what's the play. With every person you talk to, it's a different play, right? Like some people, you don't need to prospect to see if they are going to buy a house. Some people, you might talk to them for 5 minutes and find out their dream is to have their mother or their sister move into town and be closer to family. And if that's the case, like that's your most viable option if you're hoping to get a sale out of it. Or
Mhm.
maybe I meet you, Michael, instead of trying to say, "Hey, if you ever need a mortgage, call me." Instead, I want you to bring me into your company so that we can put together a promotion so that every one of your agents or clients or customers can get some type of discount for my services. And a lot of times, like agents and salespeople, we kind of miss the forest for the trees, right? Like
Yep.
we look for we all want to get that one sale from that one person, but really there's a bigger opportunity at play that we didn't think about because either A, we didn't listen, or B, we didn't analyze. And those are almost always the two problems. So what happened then? So you got your first customer from, you're doing your wedding business, you're
Mm-hmm.
meeting people, applying the Ford model, or probably at that point you didn't know it was the Ford model, but I know you were doing it.
Mm-hmm.
What happened from there?
Yeah, it just kind of grows from there. I kept my eye on the original business that we started. We grew it to the point where we were able to make a hire. I made that hire with my wife in order to get me kind of out of the business, which was the plan all along. And I recall it very specifically sitting in the back office of our stationery store that we grew into. And I was doing a deal at the time. I want to say the most I did in a year was like 7 transactions, and that was a good year. And I was getting better at it. Then I do a deal with a gentleman named Tom Huser, and he's the listing agent. Nice house in Summerlin, which is the area I always wanted to work in. It's the area I lived, a little bit higher end. That was my goal. He had this beautiful listing. I had a buyer for it. We do the deal together, and I go, this guy's kicking my butt. Like, and not in negotiating per se, or like just completely, embarrassing me in front of my clients, but just in the way he ran the transaction like a business. He had systems, he had admins, everything was delivered on time with a smile and professionally. And I went, this is the guy I want to emulate. This is the guy I want to learn from. So I after the deal, I said, hey, I see you have a team. Would you put me on your team? So he sent me a disc profile, DISC, and you figure out what type of personality type you are. And I'm a high D, shocker, which is a driver personality. And most people, if you have a team, you don't really want to hire high Ds because you're the driver of the team. And to hire someone like you can get in the way. You want more foot soldiers who are going to take orders and take leads, and more like buyer agents, showing agents. But timing being what it was, he said, I'm actually looking to hire somebody to help me with listings, and you'd be perfect for it. So he took me under his wing. I became immediately, I'm a sponge, man. So if you're listening to this podcast, you're obviously a sponge for information too, and you're going to hear a lot of recurring patterns. Do what these guests, what the authors you read, what the speakers you go to at conferences, just do what they tell you. Stop being smart and start getting to work. Stop thinking you can do it better, reinvent the wheel, be clever, throw out your cleverness, be humble, and follow the person that you're listening to, that maybe you're paying to coach you. Because real estate is not that hard. Let me rephrase that. It's simple, but it's not easy. So I was just willing to roll up my sleeves and do what my team leader asked of me. So year one, I became the third agent on the team. I want to say there were maybe 10 agents. I was number 3 on year one. And then the next year, I took over the top and never looked back. I was the top producer on his team for many years, until one day he sat me down for lunch and he said, I'd like to make you and your wife a partner at the brokerage. So I kind of skipped a step. He turned his team into his own brokerage. I operated under him at that brokerage, and then he offered me a partnership. And my wife and I accepted. She came on as marketing director, doing graphics, marketing, and a little bit of operations. And a year later, much to our surprise, he decided to step down as the broker and wanted to be out as a partner. And kind of the opportunity, not of a lifetime per se, but just was like, okay, well, I got to say yes to this, right? I very much believe in there's an unfolding that happens in our careers and lives, and it benefits those who say yes to surprising challenges, such as, hey, I want to move from New York to Las Vegas where you don't know anybody. Hey, I want to open a graphic design studio and do wedding invitations, et cetera, et cetera. Like, you have to pay attention to the signs that are being displayed in front of you constantly. I think there's road posts if we actually tune into them. So, of course, this was an obviously glaring one. And when he wanted to step down, I just went, okay, we'll buy you out. I'm going to get my broker license. Give me 3-4 months and we'll do this. And that happened earlier this year, in May of 2025. And I've taken over now as a sole broker and owner of Magenta Real Estate here in Las Vegas with 20 agents underneath me.
That's amazing. I mean, that story itself is super interesting because sometimes it's about just saying yes. For the first like 10 years of my career, I never turned down a meeting. Like if someone wanted to meet
Love
for
it.
coffee, a drink, lunch, whatever, I always said yes because you
Yes.
never know what it's going to lead to. And at that point, I was like, even just knowing someone, if I can't do business with them, that's okay. And so now I say yes to almost everybody. If it's a clear, like shameless sales attempt where they didn't try to get to know me first, I say no.
Yep.
Or I put a challenge up to like give them almost like an assignment if they then want to meet with me and I see how committed they
Perfect.
are, or if I was just a cold call, right? But
Yeah.
it's
Or you'll give them 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Matt, you and I are the same. Just in the beginning, especially, I said yes to every single meeting, every social event. Back in the wedding industry days, we got invited to multiple Christmas parties and we went to every
yeah,
single one, much to the chagrin of my wife, who's more of the
and your
behind the
liver, yeah.
scenes. And I'm like, this is what we do. And yeah, we're doing it for the wedding invitation business, but we're also doing it for my real estate business. The old adage that the number of conversations you have will equal a ratio to the number of closings that you have, a very strong ratio. If you're not having daily conversations, you're not doing regular business. I guarantee it.
It could not be any more true. And it's one of those things where I look at like who are the people in my community that I need to know. And sometimes I just recommend asking the other people, like if I have a meeting with you and I can't immediately figure out how one of us is going to win, I sometimes will just ask, Michael, who do you know in the Midwest that I need to know? Do you know anyone really cool or interesting in the general Illinois, Michigan area that you think is cool that I should know? And then I'll ask you for a text message connection or some version of that. Because at the end of the day, if I can you might not be the person that I can work with directly, but it
Mhm.
might be like another thing. But if I don't ask, I never find out if there's an answer there.
Yeah. And you ask a good question by phrasing it, who do you know, as opposed to do you know anyone?
Yeah. Well, if I
Um,
say do, it's going to be, I can't
no.
really think of anyone at the moment. It's crazy how your mind opens up when there's an open-ended question. And
Yep.
Michael, honestly, it sounds like we might, I don't know if you're in a coaching program or where, but it sounds like we have studied among a lot of the same people because a lot of what you're saying is a lot of what I was about to say. Like you're taking the words out of my mouth here. Um, okay, so I know you kind of had a shift at some point in the last couple of years where you had some stuff happen and it made you rethink how you were pursuing real estate. And I want to hear about that. I want everyone listening to hear about that quick.
Yeah. I had a really tough battle with ulcerative colitis. You may be familiar with it. The disease attacks your intestines. It's an autoimmune disease, and I'll spare the gory details, but it is absolutely ravishing to your digestive system. Um, to the tune of me really not being able to go anywhere, needing to know where the toilet was at all times, and it
Good
was
thing
very
you're a realtor and you can figure that out almost in any home you're
yeah.
at.
Thankfully, I worked around a lot of toilets, but at the same time, the embarrassment factor, excusing yourself to go to the bathroom while you're showing a house, for example, and with that horrible symptom comes a whole host of other symptoms, including anemia. I lost weight. I lost 70 pounds. I was 115 pounds, skin and bones. I'm almost 6 feet tall. So, I mean, you can imagine how thin that is to be 115. I was in and out of the hospital, multiple stays. And then, so one day I was basically bedridden, where I was so weak, I couldn't really stand up on my own. It became a total struggle. I lost all the muscles, like, for example, in my legs. And my wife was running that business, that wedding invitation business. My real estate business was basically almost non-existent. I didn't have the energy to make calls, let alone show homes. And in fact, one low point was showing houses to hair and makeup artists, and they were looking at two-story homes. And I recall going out and looking at homes, and on the first floor, I was so exhausted that I couldn't go upstairs. And I remember saying, "You guys can, go upstairs, tell me what you see. If there's any questions you have, I'll be waiting here." And I was like, "Man, I can't go on. This is it. Like, I can't do my job anymore." And as nice and sympathetic as they were, like, are they going to refer you business? And not necessarily because they don't think you can do the job, but maybe out of sympathy for you, like, maybe
Hmm.
he needs to rest. So I had to do something about it. And it took months to get well enough to return to work. And it's very taxing, not only on me physically and emotionally and mentally and spiritually, but also on my wife, who had to not only run our business, but then, be my nurse the moment she got home. So I hit a low in every single way. And if you're out there and you're in a low spot right now of your own, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual, you got to use this moment to find out who you really are. Are you a person who throws in the towel and gives up? Are you a person who finds it within themselves to make a change? Because no one's coming to save you.
So how did you? So obviously, your body's your body.
Mm-hmm.
How did you make a change that then led to, I guess, like the comeback or the, I feel like this is like a Rocky story, right? Like
Yeah.
you have that, you hit a low. In your case, it was your health. What was the change? What's the rest of the story?
Yeah. I mean, it's between the ears is the change. 100% between the ears. In order to get well physically, I had to get well mentally, which started with a belief in myself. Visualization. I started with Tai Chi in a swimming pool, is where I physically started exercising because I couldn't balance on one leg. So I was with all the senior citizens, and I'm talking geriatrics. Literally, I used to go to an old folks home and do Tai Chi. To start, you got to start and grow where you are planted. So that's where I started. Tai Chi in
It's
the
I mean,
water.
it's so interesting because it's like you're at this point where you can't walk up the stairs, but you're like, I need to do something different. Otherwise, this is going to be my
Yes.
new reality. And it's like, okay, never thought about doing Tai Chi in a pool with old people, but like, if that's like the 1% better than laying in bed, let's give it a
Yes.
try. And then everyone, I'm assuming that then every month you got a little bit more active. The Rocky music played a little bit louder, and then all of a
100%.
sudden you're like, shit, I'm going to go close $100 million in sales this year and run a
Yes.
marathon and rock climb.
That's the montage, man. I mean, and for me, it was cycling and trail running. But yes, I was running up that mountain with that song in my head eventually. Yeah, now, I lift weights. I've been a cyclist competitively doing races. I gave that up recently, but I mean, I'm in fit top shape now. And it started with, getting out of bed and doing Tai Chi in the water. And you hit the nail on the head, is like when you said, I have to do something about this. I have to make a change. And one thing I preach to everyone is you must focus on process and not outcome, whether we're talking about dialing on the phone, expired listings, or we're talking about rebuilding your health from ground zero. You only need to focus on the present moment task in front of you, whether it's getting out of bed or picking up the phone and dialing those numbers. Dial those numbers with care. Okay. Breathe when the phone is ringing. Just be in the moment and be totally focused on providing service to your client, and the outcome always takes care of itself. And I don't want to sound corny and I don't want to sound repetitive, but as I mentioned, do not reinvent the wheel, and listen when I say, if you focus on your process, you will be successful with your outcome.
And I think it's like you mentioned it earlier, but I want to go back to it. It's focusing on the process in the moment, right?
Yes.
Because I think about like yesterday, 8 a.m., I was unhappy. That sucks. Like, why was I unhappy at 8 a.m.? It's because I had
Mhm.
just read an article about someone a year older than me who'd grown their property portfolio to $200 million and then, had an exit for whatever. And I was reminded that comparison is the thief of happiness. Like, I was happy at 7:55 in the morning. And then all of a sudden I read this and I was like, man, like, I'm behind on my 10-year goal and I'm behind on this and I'm behind on that. What I didn't think is, well, I'm ahead of 99.9% of the population, and I have a great wife and great kids and great this and great that. But what I then did was I said, I'm just going to write down on my little daily planner 3 things that if I accomplish these 3 things, it's going to end up having been a great day. And one of them was ultra simple. It was, can I play pickleball for 2 hours today? So I went, texted
Nice.
4 friends, hey, you want to play at 6 p.m.? Great. The other one was a little bit more work related. It's like, I need to make one sale. I need to dial for dollars until I make one sale, or at least get an opportunity that will likely close before the end of the month. And then number three was I needed to do something of gratitude for 5 people on my team, which is fairly easy to do, but I just had to put the mental thought into it. And so at the end of the day, I got to cross off all those things, and I still didn't affect, getting my property portfolio to the 200 million mark like this guy earlier, but it didn't matter because I just had to focus on a process for in the exact moment, and that fixed my mental state immediately.
Yeah, I would argue it did move the needle to getting to your goal.
Probably did.
Yeah, and how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. You got 2 hours of exercise. You treated your body right, which led to a good night's sleep. You socialized with your friends for 2 hours. You made some connections, but you felt better spiritually and connected to your community. You were grateful for what you have, which is the perfect way to grow and get more and more and grow your abundance is by focusing on what you have, not what you don't, because focusing on what you don't have is only going to attract more of what you don't have. And you were there to make that sale, which obviously is a direct monetary result. So you did get closer to your goal. And I like to even think I achieved my goal because my goal today was these 3 things. And if I do these 3 things or the next 3 things 5 days a week, I'm going to get there. And if I don't get there, I might get to 100 million and poor me. It's that simple, guy. It's like compound interest. And I like that you chose 3 things and all 3 things were a little bit different, right? You had a personal, you had a spiritual, you had a business, and you checked all 3 boxes. I have a very similar practice, and you've probably heard it before. Gratitude journals and writing about today's wins is what I call them. And I write down 3 of them. And, one of them is lunch with my nephew, which is happening after this call. And that makes me feel good when I reflect on them at the end of the day. And guys, we only have this one life. This is not a dress rehearsal, as my friend once told me. So like playing pickleball and having lunch with a family member is what life is about. No one cares that you have a $200 million portfolio. No one is really that impressed. It's a lot of ego-driven metrics. There's a certain amount of money that we need to be happy. And a lot of that has to do with meeting survival needs. But true happiness comes from community engagement and family. And that's what I try to teach. That person out there, like comparison trap. First of all, don't get on your phone so early and read articles. That's a no-no for me until I've done things for myself. But also, you have to define success from within, and journaling will help you do that. What is my definition of success? Is 200 million under management that person's definition of success, or is it mine? Because if mine is 2 million, then that's totally okay. And that's where my mindset, that was the major thing that happened with me when I came out of my illness stronger than ever, was I did not take for granted what true happiness was and what true success is. Health is wealth. If you are a healthy individual who can play pickleball and make phone calls and have a team around you, in my opinion, you're the man, you're successful.
It's so true and so accurate. And it's finding like what that thing is going to be for you individually. And I think coaching and finding a mentor is huge, and I think everyone should have one.
Yes.
But the hard part is finding the right one, and it's also finding the right one for where you are in your life right now, right? Like the coach to get you from like, if you're a real estate agent, your first coach might need to be someone who can just get you from 0 to $5 million in sales. Right? It's getting those first 10 deals so that your shelter needs and your basic human needs are met. But then once you've gotten to that level, it's okay, how am I going to scale from 5 million to 10 million when I still only have 40 hours in the week and I have all this other stuff in my life that's piled up around it? And then you get to that level and you say, okay, I got there, but now I'm starting to like not spend enough time with my family. I don't have time for the things I want to do. You need someone who can get you to that level. Yeah. And I think it's really important to switch coaches every now and then, but it's also important to find someone who is just like really just like one step ahead of where you are right now.
Yeah. And that harpers back to my meeting my team leader, back in 2000, let's call it 15 or 16, and seeing, he's doing what I want. He's that Summerlin listing agent. Let me learn from him. If I had met him 5 years ago, I wouldn't have been ready. So at that time, they say when the student's ready, the teacher will present himself. He presented himself and I said, yes. And then, all of a sudden now we're partners. And then all of a sudden now I'm the sole owner of a company he built. Like, it's just amazing when you look back at the dominoes falling, how getting the right coach by being humble enough, by the way, to say, I'm not as good as Matt. Matt has something to teach me. When you can do that, you're unstoppable, man. So many of us have too big of an ego to admit we need help.
Hmm.
And when you say, I need help, Matt, teach me, you just opened up a whole new world. And I like your idea of eventually you need a new coach for a new concept, and that's totally okay. Matt brought me here and we're always going to be friends and we're always going to have that bond. But now I need a new coach to get me to be more balanced in my life, for example, or to get me to 200 million. That's well said. And I've always felt that, I am a coach, but I always get coaching. When I mentioned cycling, had a cycling coach. I've had a running coach. I have a golf coach. I'm trying to focus on golf this year. Like my coach, Coach Bauman, he's much better at golf than me. I can go out and play golf every day and try to figure it out, but it's going to take me years versus let me pay this individual to help me shortcut those years to being a decent player in a matter
I think
of
there's
months.
also like a mental relief or hack for like the minute that I'm paying for a coach for something, I at least feel better about myself that I'm doing something to improve, right? Like I take a pickleball lesson, maybe I play every day, but I take a lesson once every month or once every other month because if I don't do that, I feel like I'm not doing anything actively to get better, to learn new skills. And even if I might learn something that it's not my style, at least I have the knowledge, right?
Yes.
And that's not just about pickleball. That's about anything that you're doing in your life, parenting, your marriage, your anything. But okay, Michael, a couple more questions for you. What is like you have all these agents now that you're managing. What is like how are you deciding which like how to help them grow? Like, every agent joins a brokerage and every brokerage says like, "Hey, I'm the best place for you." But when someone joins your brokerage, like what are the questions that you're asking them to then figure out what you need to teach them?
Yeah. How can I help you?
Yeah.
Question number one. Again, being of service, my agents are now my clients. So it's really much the same process. Like I get to know them and what their goals are, and I ask them to define success. Yeah. Do you want to do 20 million a year or 2 million a year? Do you want to be at your kids' soccer games or do you want to be on the phone? Like what is your goal? And I'll help you get there. So that's question number one. Then I just look for high morals and ethics. People are just going to do the right thing, who put other people first. And that's really an intuitive thing. I ask questions about maybe if they're a current agent, what it's like at their current brokerage. And if they start gossiping or bad mouthing, I know they're not a fit. So I'm really looking for somebody with good energy, positive mindset who wants to grow. And teaching, I mentioned real estate it's simple but not easy. It's really being accountable. We're going to do our 2026 planning here in the near future as a brokerage. And really, I'm just going to be accountability partners. Like, hey, raise your hand if you did an open house in the last 30 days. Make people physically show me that they did it. And it's like, okay, well, if your business isn't where you want it to be, perhaps we need to ramp up the open houses. Oh, you did an open house, 2 hours? Okay, how about we do 4 hours and we meet twice as many people? How many calls did you make? Oh, I made 5 expired calls. That's it. Let's get it to 15. Like that's my coaching style, is really just calling people out on their own bullshit, because negativity will get in the way every single time. 70% of people did not sell a house in the last 18 months. And I can guarantee you they have done almost nothing about it. The 30% who are selling homes right now are actively developing business. I'm not here to say the number one lead generation right now is online leads or open houses or sphere of influence, events, mail. I don't care what you choose. I just need you to choose activity.
It's huge. It's one of those things where it's the 70% of agents are doing no business, but they're also not in the business. They're part time.
Yes.
Their entire marketing strategy is what I call hope marketing. They are hoping that because they are cool, funny, pretty, awesome, they know everyone, something else, that the phone will ring, and through magic, they will get a listing or a buyer. Unfortunately, that does work, I don't know, once every 5 years, and you will get a deal out of it every 5 years. The
Yes.
problem is you're not in control. You're going to feel out of control, and you're not doing anything to change your outcome. So I
Yes. So
say, create some opportunity. Like find an opportunity that you think is great for a client or for a friend, and
yeah.
call them about that one opportunity. And
And
if you do that 20 times a day, that's the game.
let me explain why a lot of people are afraid to call that friend or to host an open house. They're not informed. So even if you are part time and full time, anybody, you need to be informed. If you plan on doing 3 deals a year, you need to know the market as well as somebody doing 30. So there's a great phrase from Keeping Current Matters. It's a real estate information data website that I subscribe to and watch every month. They say most agents know what's happening. Good agents understand what's happening, but only great agents can explain what's happening. So I'm very big on teaching my agents every month. Here's the data. So here now you know, and let me tell you what it means. Now you understand it. But now let me tell you how to explain it to people. That's what makes you great is you can explain why prices are flat. You can explain why sales are down, not just tell them sales are down, give them a story as to why it is so that when you are confident in explaining, now picking up the phone gets easy because you're like, bring it on, Matt. What questions do you have about the market? As opposed to, man, I hope he doesn't ask me where mortgage rates are going. And that's why you don't pick up the phone. You're not informed.
What's super interesting is I give a vaguely similar piece of advice to my real estate brokers, and I say every Monday you need to come up with 3 topics that all of your agents that you can explain to all of your agents that they can use as fodder for their phone calls. Because
Like
most brokers and leaders in any industry, they tell their salespeople, you need to make more calls, you need to have more action, but they don't tell them what to say or even give them a topic. And we have all these sales meetings in our industry, and sometimes honestly it feels like they're a giant waste of time. It's
yes,
like it's like a popularity
rah rah.
contest. It's some rah rah. Maybe there's a quote from a book at the beginning, great. But at the end of the day, like I want to know what I need to do based on this specific week. What
Yes,
is happening in the world? What is happening in my backyard? And what can my people do with that information? And who does this affect? And
yep.
so I start every week with a sticky note by my computer. And if I run out of things to say, whether it be on a podcast with you, whether that be on a sales call, whether that be my boss calls me out on a Zoom where I didn't know he was going to call me out, all of a sudden I have 3 things on my sticky note that are at least pertinent to the week that we're in and that I
Mm,
can talk intelligently about. And
I
that
love it.
takes me half an hour every Monday to put that together, and I have it for the week. Sometimes I don't end up using it, but when I need it, it saves my butt and it lets people know that I'm in tune with my market.
I'm gonna up my ante because I do it monthly, and now I'm gonna do it weekly. One example, another way we generate business. I know it's a big important topic is through SOI marketing. So at Magenta, we do a newsletter twice a month, and one of them's lifestyle, but one of them is this market data. So not only we're doing in-person meetings and I'm telling my agents literally exactly what to say, copy and paste, how to talk to sellers, how to talk to buyers. These are text messages to send. These are phone calls to have. I literally give them that. I then convert it into a newsletter that goes out to their customers on their behalf so that they look intelligent and they don't have to lift a finger. And then we put on events. So this is just a recent one. I know the holidays just passed, but we did a toy drive at Magenta. So that goes out in the blast, invites their clients to the toy drive, but then I give them a script of don't just send a newsletter, call. Hey, Matt, did you get my newsletter and did you get my invitation to our toy drive? We're helping out Vegas youth ambassadors. We're collecting unwrapped gifts. You just called them and did something super kind for the community that makes you look like a good person. And that's all you do. Then shut up. Again, we're doing other centered. Don't start talking real estate. 9 out of 10, they're going to be like, yeah, I can make it. By the way, what's going on? How's the market, etc. That is the tools that we try to give our agents like a platform to jump off of. So getting informed, having resources, doing community events, but then leveraging them, not just hoping. Hope is not a strategy, as you mentioned earlier. Hope marketing. Like go invite people. And guess what? They come. Now you're face to face, belly to belly. So who are they going to think of when they decide to buy or sell or they have a referral? The
Yep.
person who sends them a newsletter once a month that their broker in corporate at national sent that's not relevant, or the person who sent them a local newsletter, explained what it meant to them, invited them to a party, and hung out with them for charity. Who are they going to pick?
It wins every time. Michael, I could talk to you all day. It sounds like we're very in tune. We're doing a lot of the same stuff, but with slightly different approaches, which I love. If someone has a client moving to the Vegas area or wants more information on Magenta Real Estate, how would they get a hold of you?
Thanks. Yeah. So magenta.realestate is our website. If you're interested in joining, it would be joinmagenta.realestate. And if you want to go deeper into some of the topics I love to talk about, my coaching website would be michaelcoxen.com. And I'm on all socials at Michael Coxen.
Well, everyone, if this is the kind of thing you want to hear more of on the podcast, send me a DM, Matt Musket 88, and I will listen to all of your feedback so I can bring on more guests that are giving the kind of information that you want to hear that can impact your business in a positive way. Thanks, Michael. Appreciate you on the show today.
Thank you, Matt.